Hey, what's up, guys? It's your boy Wild Bill hitting you back up. We're going to get started on these team previews here. We're going to start right now with the AFC East and just go through the four teams. And so here we go. First team I'm going to talk about, right there, Buffalo Bills. Buffalo's a team last season that went 6-10 and had very inconsistent play with their offensive line and their quarterbacks. Um, they did have a good running attack though. You had Fred Jackson rushing for 1,000 yards. Jairus Byrd was one of the top secondary players in the NFL last season. One of the top rookies, finishing second to Brian Cushing in Rookie of the Year voting. And of course, they went out this year and drafted C.J. Spiller. So they got some young players on that team. One of the top changes they made this season, of course, was bringing in a new head coach. They fired Dick Duran, and they brought in Chan Gailey, who most recently was the head coach at Georgia Tech. So he is in. One of the top names that are out is Terrell Owens. They decided not to re-sign him, so he's gone. They also parted with Josh So right now they have Lee Evans as the number one receiver, and then it's a big question mark as to who's going to be the number two guy. Another big battle going on is who's going to be the starting quarterback. Right now, you got Trent Edwards, Ryan Fitzpatrick, and Brian Brom battling for the number one spot. I think the favorite right now is Trent Edwards, but I would not be surprised to see Ryan Fitzpatrick sneak in there and take that top spot away. They definitely have a nice running attack, though, in Marshawn Lynch, C.J. Spiller, and Fred Jackson. The only problem is they still have not signed C.J. Spiller, so hopefully soon they can get him in and get him in the camp and get him ready to go. Their defense I'm really liking. They have some nice players on defense, too. One of the key guys they brought in was Dwan Edwards from Baltimore at the end. Edwards on one side, you'll have, I believe, Marcus Stroud on the other, and then Kyle Williams at the nose, since Buffalo runs a 3-4. And then you got guys like Paul Posluszny and Reggie Torbor at linebackers, and then guys like Terrence McGee and Jairus Byrd on the defense. So they've got some good players on the defense. Will they be able to compete this season? Maybe not this season. In a couple years, possibly. So we'll just have to see what happens. So with that being said, we move on to the Miami Dolphins. Last season, 8-8, missed the playoffs. One of the key losses they had last season was Ronnie Brown, of course, had that foot injury and missed about half the season. In his absence, though, Ricky Williams did step in very nicely, and then Lex Hilliard had some nice playing time of his own. But Ronnie Brown is back. They're going to get the Wildcat going again. We got Chad Henne under center, and he's definitely improving. He's definitely a quarterback worth watching. And then one of the key additions, probably the key addition they made, was trading for Brandon Marshall. They traded 2 second-round picks to the Broncos to get Marshall. After doing that, they then traded Ted Ginn Jr. to San Francisco, who clearly has not yet lived up to his status as a top 10 draft pick. So the offense will definitely be fun to watch. And then on the defensive side of the ball, you got guys like Vontae Davis, um, first-round pick Jared Odrick, who might get some playing time this season. Um, they kind of made, not necessarily a trade, but if you think about it, they just basically flip-flopped. Joey Porter leaves for Arizona, but coming to Miami from Arizona is Carlos Dansby. So it should be interesting to see how that plays out. But this is definitely a team that very well could compete in not maybe for a wild card spot. They could definitely compete in the division. So this team is definitely one to watch out for. All right, moving on. We're halfway done. Next up, the New England Patriots. Last season, 10-6, division champs. Of course, lost in the wild card round though to the Ravens. Not so much during the offseason. Really, the only storyline that's been going on, of course, is whether or not Wes Welker is going to be ready to go. Of course, he tore his ACL in the final regular season game last season against Houston. So he obviously missed the rest of that game and the wild card. But he's been taken off the PUP list, so I guess this means the coaches believe he's ready to go, he's getting healthy, and it's amazing how fast he's been able to recover. Usually ACL injuries take usually about a year to fully recover. You're only talking, this is about 7 months, so that's amazing. So, should he not be ready to go though, look for Julian Edelman to take his spot as the number 2 guy for a little bit. But even if Welker is ready to go, I would expect Edelman to be that number 3 guy and definitely help out the passing game there. And they also brought in veteran Torrey Holt, who spent last season in Jacksonville. They got the running backs again, Sammy Morris, Fred Taylor, Lawrence Maroney. They went out and drafted Rob Gronkowski to help at tight end, now that Ben Watson is now in Cleveland. On defense, they have a very young defense. Their first-round pick was defense. Of course, cornerback Devin McCourty out of Rutgers. They've got some young players, Gerard Mayo for one, Brandon Merriweather. So they've got some young players. They were a little, I guess, kind of shaky on defense last season. I would expect them to be much improved this year, and that should help them compete in this division. Of course, anytime you have a Tom Brady-led team, you're always going to have a shot. That's the bottom line. So, and the last team left is going to be the Jets, Jets. Last season, 9-7. Some will argue they backed their way into the playoffs because their last 2 wins of the season over the Colts and the Bengals were basically against their backups. But the Jets then got hot in the playoffs. They beat the Bengals again into the wild card round, and then they shocked the Chargers in the divisional round before falling short against the Colts in the AFC Championship game. Last, of course, you had rookie quarterback Mark Sanchez, who had an up-and-down season, but overall I think was pretty productive. And, of course, he's back again this year, and he's got a lot of weapons to work with. He's got some of his old receivers back, Waylon Edwards, Jericho Cotchery, Dustin Keller at tight end, and then they traded for Santonio Holmes, and they brought back, once again, Laveranues Coles. Now, Holmes is suspended for the first 4 games of the season, but I expect he'll be able to produce. once he comes back from that 4-game suspension. Um, Running backs, of course, they made a lot of changes. Gone is Thomas Jones to free agency. He's now in Kansas City. They traded Leon Washington to Seattle. They signed LaDainian Tomlinson from San Diego. But the name to watch out for here is second-year man Sean Johnson. This is a kid. They're expecting him to get, like 300 carries, the bulk of the carries. So this is his chance to be a breakout player. This could be his breakout year. And with the type of offensive line that the Jets have, this team is looking really good. They can definitely protect Mark Sanchez, give him time to throw to all his targets. So it's going to be fun to watch them. And then the defense is there. Top to bottom, they have probably the best defense in the NFL. The only problem is Darrelle Revis is injured. Or he's not injured, he's on holdout. He wants to be paid. He's due just $1 million this season. He wants to be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL. Right now that is Nnamdi Asomugha of the Raiders. He's getting about $16 million this season. The Jets would love to give him the kind of money, but they don't know if they're going to be able to come up with a deal that's going to make him happy. So that's going to be something to watch out for. How long will Revis hold out? Will he, decide to get back on the field anyway and play? Time will tell. If Revis is there, this team is definitely a Super Bowl contender. If Revis is not there, they're in a lot of trouble. So with that being said, thus ends the AFC East preview. Join me tomorrow when I will take a journey through the AFC North. Until next time, this is your boy, Wild Bill, saying so long.